We have a good agenda. We're able to fill all the roles, even though we have a little bit of a small crew tonight, but we'll make it work. We have 2 speeches. I'm doing a speech, and Maurice is doing a speech. Mine's coming from Pathways Innovative Planning, and Maurice is doing one from Speaking to Inform. Is that Pathways, Maurice?
No, that's solar system. Yeah.
Okay. And our table topics master for tonight is going to be Susan, and we have our general evaluator, Cheyenne, and she will also be doing the second evaluation, and Maurice will be doing the evaluation for my speech. And John's tackling both the timer and the grammarian. Does anyone need an explanation of the rules? Because we don't have any of this. Okay. Everyone's good. And educational overview. Oh, there's some.
Pick up a word.
I did.
Oh,
Come on.
yes.
You want to leave the word of the day right
Yes,
now?
John, can you give us the word of the day?
Today's word of the day is mordant. M-O-R-D-A-N-T. And the definition is biting and caustic in thought, manner, or style. Incisive. And an example would be when Clementine tried to tell him that the result might well be a blessing in disguise, Winston Churchill maintained his normal standards of mordant wit by replying that at the moment it's certainly very well disguised.
Thank you, John, for the word of the day. I think I'm listening. Okay. That is the agenda for tonight, and I now have the privilege of introducing the first speaker, which is going to be me. And I'm doing a speech out of the Innovative Planning Pathways, and this is my second speech from this Pathways curriculum, and the title of my speech is Getting Out of Debt. Our society is plagued with the burden that affects over 80% of the citizens of the United States. It affects marriages, their children's happiness, even their overall health. I'm not talking about the major health disorders that the United States faces right now, such as cancer and diabetes. I'm talking about the financial problem of consumer debt. Debt is so common in America that it's almost a rite of passage to becoming an adult. Let's face it, having debt is just, well, being American. But there's a lot of problems that come with this that affect people's lives, and I believe ridding yourself of it can greatly improve your overall well-being. This is not an easy thing to do, though. However, I'm taking the Financial Peace University class at my church right now by Dave Ramsey, and I'm going to share with you what I've learned so far to enable you to get out of debt and rid your life of it completely. The first part of the process, like any other thing, is admitting that you have a problem. So you need to understand the current level of debt you're in and actually want to get rid of it. So you got to first do that. And once you've done that, you'll now have the emphasis and the empowerment to tackle it. And you can start the 7 baby steps from the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. And the first step is saving a $1,000 emergency fund. And this fund is to be used when you have an emergency, such as you have a flat tire, you have a medical bill that comes up, you don't have to go and grab the credit card and rack up more debt. And also, the emergency fund is fairly easy to achieve, and it gives you that motivation, once you accomplish that one, to move on to the next steps. The second step is using the debt snowball to pay down all of your consumer debt except for your mortgage. That snowball concept consists of taking your lowest debt item and paying that down first, and then once that's paid, using that money to pay down the next, and eventually you pay down all of your debt. Now, I'm an engineer and a numbers guy, and I know this doesn't make the most mathematical sense, because mathematically you should pay down the highest interest rate loan first. But the beauty of the debt snowball is it plays on human psychology. So you take the smallest amount, that will get you the quickest to accomplishing the first part. And you pay that one down, you build up momentum, and you pay the next, and you're winning, and you're accomplishing goals. For instance, if the highest loan amount was also your largest amount, you might not ever pay off because you'll get discouraged and you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. So based on this, I believe this is one of the best ways to pay off your debt. In just step 2, you're already out of consumer debt. So you might be asking yourself, what are the other 5 steps for? Well, these are for you to make sure you don't get back into debt, and also enable you to see what you can do with this extra money that you now have. Step 3 is to save 3 to 6 months for your ultimate emergency fund. So this is taking your monthly expenses, multiplying that by 3 to 6, and putting that into a liquid savings account. And this will enable you to take a lot of pressure and weight out of your life, because if you lose your job or you have a major medical issue, you don't have to worry about, well, how am I going to survive this? Because you've already thought ahead and you've planned for that. And you can continue during that 6 months without a job and give you enough time to find the next job. Step 4 is investing 15% of your gross income into a 401k or a Roth IRA. Now you're starting to build wealth for yourself and your future and your family's future. Just a simple act of 15% over 30 years for the average American salary can make you a multimillionaire. It's nothing fancy. You don't need an MBA or be an investment banker to do this. It's just diligent year-over-year investing in a simple plan. Once you've taken care of your future, now you can start thinking about your child's future. Saving for their college tuition in a tax advantage account such as a 529. This is money set aside every month for your child's tuition, and it has a tax advantage. So now you're allowing your child, once they're at that age, to use that money and not have to worry about all the issues of collecting student loan debt as they go through college. And then when they graduate, they can start off fresh and tackle the problems in the world that they were meant to accomplish. With your retirement taken care of and your child's college tuition funded, you can start working on step 6. Step 6 is paying down the last bit of debt you have, which is your home mortgage. So you take the extra money and start paying down your home mortgage early. And imagine once that's paid off, the extra money that you'll have coming in now that you don't have to worry about rent or a mortgage payment. Another great benefit is when you retire, your retirement money will go a lot longer because now you don't have to pay rent or a mortgage. Once the house is paid off, you're officially debt-free. And I imagine that's an amazing feeling. Not quite there yet. And you get to do the stuff only the rich get to do. Step 7 is about giving generously and enjoying the money you have coming in and continuing to build your wealth for your future and to leave a legacy. Once you don't have to worry about your own financial well-being, you can now focus on helping others and impacting other people's lives. Reaching this step and being able to help others is what living a full life is all about. Thank you.
Also, what I understand is that Trump has made it to where you can use your 529 savings for school, like
For your
children's,
like private schools?
Private school.
I didn't know that. All right, so that is my speech, Getting Out of Debt. Our next speaker is going to be Maurice Heidelberg. He's speaking out of the Speaking to Inform manual. And the title of his speech is Resources for Informing, or I guess another title would.
what manual is it from?
Speaking to
Speak to
Inform.
inform. The benefits of Toastmasters for learning public speaking. That should have I made it shorter than that, but
All right, let's welcome Maurice.
Fellow Toastmasters, I am here tonight to explain the benefits of the Toastmasters program. As you already know, throughout your lives, you've seen different courses of public speaking in one form or another. Dale Carnegie, or these different motivational speakers that are out there who write books. But I venture to say there is not an economically better program for learning public speaking than Toastmasters. You can go to your local college, and typically, for example, the University of South Alabama, I don't know what the exact price is, I imagine a few $100s per credit hour. You can take a speech course for a semester. You may learn a lot, but after that semester is over, that's it. Until you get into another class for another couple $100s per credit hour. And there are some that are less expensive, but still a few $100s for maybe 6 months or 3 or 4 months to learn public speaking. But with the Toastmasters program, the international dues is $45 per 6-month period. On top of that, you have people from preteen, possibly to over 100 years old. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's 1 or 2 over 90 in Toastmasters Club somewhere in the world. So you have a variety of ages, so you're not restricted to be enrolled in college to learn public speaking. Another benefit, besides the cost benefit, is the engagement. It's a friendly environment. Even though you're being evaluated on speeches, you're not being graded on speeches. Because you can get an F on your speech if you take it in a local college. But if you don't do as well as you intended to in Toastmasters, you would just get encouraging words on how to do better on your speeches. You're not going to flunk a speech in Toastmasters. Back on the variety of the demographics, particularly on Hilltoppers Toastmasters, you have a variety of ages and a variety of occupations. College student who plays in a band. You have an older person who teaches marine sciences, or so you have a variety of experiences. And we have 2 members in our club who are on the brink of becoming distinguished Toastmasters. And then you have others who have accomplished competent communicator, and one who just accomplished competent communicator recently. And all the speeches that are given by this variety of people on different topics, where all can learn something that they can apply to their lives. It may not be that occupation of that person, but there are some concepts that each speaker uses that we can pick up and incorporate into our public speaking. Also, we have the benefit, well, at least for the next year and a half, of the manuals. I don't have my competent communicator manual, but this is just an example of a manual communicating on video, and it teaches different ways to communicate on video. For example, straight talk. This is an interview. Well, one person is the interviewer and the other person is the interviewee, and that's the first two projects in this Communicating on Video book. Going back to the competent communicator, you have the icebreaker speech, which you tell about yourself, which is the easiest speech one can do no matter how nervous that person may be. They can talk about themselves for about 4 to 6 minutes. Then we get more complex as we go up. Organize your speech, get to the point, how to say it, your body speaks, using body language, vocal variety, using different tones of voice, research your topic, get comfortable with visual aids, persuade with power, and Project 10, inspire your audience. So with the Toastmasters program, you have a variety of people of different ages, different backgrounds, in a friendly environment, teaching public speaking, or where each person can learn public speaking in a comfortable environment. You're not being graded. You're being evaluated, but you're not being graded. So those are the benefits of becoming a member of the Toastmasters Club, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Maurice. It's a shame we didn't have any guests tonight because that might have convinced them to join. But a good recap of what this club's all about. It helps us to kind of remember why we joined in the first place as well. That was our second speech, and that's all of our speeches for tonight. And now we're moving on to one of my favorite parts of the meeting, and that is table topics, led by Susan Murphy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be Table Topics Master tonight. So welcome, members. I believe everyone here is a member tonight. Unfortunately, we have no guests. Tonight's Table Topics, I would like to ask for a volunteer to do the first topic. Would you like to hear the question first, or would you? I don't know if that's cheating or not, but we just had daylight savings time come to an end yesterday for standard time. What about daylight savings time? Do you think daylight savings time is necessary? Do you think standard time is necessary? Why or why not? Cody?
So this part of daylight savings time is always nice, in my opinion, at least the first day, because you go to bed at your normal time and then you wake up at which you feel like is a certain time, but you actually gain a whole hour. So it's like you've time traveled a little bit. But then the next day, you kind of slowly get back into where you get used to it. So honestly, for me, I don't like getting dark so early, because just you get out of work and it's already dark, and just, I don't know, you just feel like the day's gone and you can't really get anything else done. But I imagine it's one point in time it was useful, right? Because you could start the day early, like for farmers and people that worked with their hands, and get a more of a day's labor in the light. But I'm not really sure if it's that useful anymore for the current workforce, because most of us work inside somewhere in an office, and even at your house. So that's becoming more of this distributed workforce where people work all over the world together in front of the computer. So maybe we could rethink it and see if it's really necessary at this point in time. Thank you, Susan.
Good job. I hardly agree. Personally, I love daylight savings time. I mean, because it's just so great to have that long day and And then when it starts getting dark, after the time change at 10 after 5, it's just a bummer. Anyway, all right. This does not have to be a disruptive or controversial kind of speech, but tomorrow is election day. How important is voting, and do you believe it makes a difference?
Hello, Toastmasters and no guests. I believe that tomorrow is very important for voting. First, you get an hour off of work to go vote. And I still am registered in Baldwin County, so I will take that hour with joy. But also, I think that voting is so important because there was a time where we couldn't vote and people just told us what to do, and this is who your leader is going to be. And also I work with a lot of minorities and people who haven't had the privilege as long as other people, and I've just heard amongst them just encouraging each other to vote and to know like what their families and their past people before them went through so they could have the right to vote. And even as a woman, the same thing, we couldn't always vote. So I think even if, for example, if you believe in the independent party, even if they don't win, it will still show that they didn't win, you know, whoever won that you didn't want to, didn't win by as much as they thought they would win. So I think even seeing those numbers are important for everyone, and so they can get a gauge of, you know, what the country believes in, you know, each state and area. I believe it's sad when people get divided over it and there's fights and things like that. But for the most part, you know, it does have good results.
Thank you. Oh. All right. Do you think, as a holiday, Thanksgiving is getting a raw deal, being sandwiched between Halloween and Christmas? Marcus?
Madam Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, I believe in a way Thanksgiving is getting a raw deal, being placed between Halloween and Christmas, for the very reason I stated for those who were here earlier, that this past Saturday night, November 3rd, my neighbor across the street has set up his Christmas lights and had them on. So that indicates that a lot of people are already deep into Christmas, a month and a half before Christmas. And in other ways, people have the Christmas spirit already before having the Thanksgiving spirit, if that's a such term. So to answer your question, there is sort of a raw deal of having Thanksgiving placed between Halloween and Christmas.
Okay.
Madam Topic Master.
Thank you, Maurice. All right. Just tell me how long we want to keep going.
Okay.
Okay. How much does television impact our practices and habits? Okay. And I might add, you could also add social media to that.
Never mind.
Too late. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. So I've been asked to give my opinion on, what was it again,
It's right down there,
the
on television and social media.
television and social media and how they impact, what did you say? I'm sorry.
You read it down there. Can you read it?
Barely. Impact our, I gotta impact our practices and habits. First of all, you have to partake in television and social media for it to have an impact on your habits and practices, I would guess. It can, I think, if you do so, depending upon what you watch. If you watch TV typically for mindless entertainment, maybe not so much. If you watch programs that might incite you in certain areas, like, for example, religion or politics, it could influence you in one way or the other as far as habits or practices. Social media can also be an outlet to bring out those types of feelings or emotions if you partake in that. So with that, that's my opinion on TV and social media impact practices.
Thank you. Talk about the old saying, practice makes perfect, in regard to Toastmasters membership and practice.
Repeat that, please.
Talk about the old saying, practice makes perfect, in regard to being a Toastmaster member. Okay, Donovan? Thank you.
Well, first of all, practice makes perfect is a saying that helps us to go about our days. Well, we do that in many other things. So, for example, Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a way of engaging in the world by talking about what we feel and what we think. It's about the logic and the sensory that we have. But what's the main importance is that practice makes perfect is a way of giving us insight of what it really means. Like basketball, practice makes perfect. Like if you don't practice, you won't be perfect. That's the logical sense, because it says practice makes perfect. So basketball, so the saying practice makes perfect is a way to help us to encourage yourself to go above and beyond, not superficial. You don't want to be superficial. You want to be over and beyond, infinity and beyond. So if we look at that saying, practice makes perfect, it helps us to realize that Toastmasters is a big influential thing in life. It impacts me right now because I go to Springfield College and I'm taking public speaking. Those are just another way of helping me to connect to the world and make connections as well. Because if you don't have connections, you won't be as successful in life than not engaging in these type of practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Donovan. Great job, y'all.
We're good.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you all.
Used up the time perfectly. So now we'll move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting, and Cheyenne is leading that as the general evaluator.
Okay, as a general evaluation of the meeting, we had to do a 5-minute recess, which I apologize for. We did have a short amount of members here today, but I think it was just as successful as having a big group. Our word of the day was immordant, which no one used, but I learned a new word today. And I think even though we had a small group, it was neat that we had 2 speeches because we usually have 1. So that was nice to have 2 speeches to look forward to. Our table topics were interesting and fall related. And I am a Christmas decorator. I would do it before Halloween just to be. My husband said put away Christmas records, so he hid them from me. So if we could get a report from the timer.
Yes, thank you. I have Cody's speech was 6 minutes and 38 seconds. Maurice's speech was 6 minutes and 23 seconds. Table topics, Cody's was 1 minute 29, Cheyenne 1 minute 30, Maurice 1 minute 12, I was 1 minute and 3, and Donovan was 2 minutes and 14.
Okay, and also a report from the all counter.
I wasn't keeping track, but I only picked up on a couple ahs or ums.
And then the grammarian.
Again, the word of the day wasn't used, and I didn't pick up any violations of speech, so to speak. Any misuse of words.
Is that ring?
I think
Yeah.
so. Wasn't that
It's supposed to rain
thunder
tonight.
too, a while ago?
Yeah, so that was my stomach.
And I did the general evaluation first when I was supposed to wait. So I would like to do this in the right order and welcome the first evaluator, which was Maurice for Cody's speech.
Fellow Toastmasters, I had the privilege to do the evaluation for Cody's speech entitled Getting Out of Debt. The general comments, he excelled at gaining the interest of the audience when it comes to Financial Peace University and getting out of debt. You may want to work on vocal variety. To challenge yourself, I said see next page, and I'm going to get to this next page of the evaluation form. And before I get into the ratings that I gave him, I want to touch on what Lawrence talked about either last week or the week before about this evaluation form. First off, number 1, it's not poor, it's developing. Number 2, it's not fair, it's emerging. Number 3, it's not average, it's accomplished. Number 4, excels. Number 5, exemplary. The object of this evaluation form, to go along with what Lawrence was saying, you don't want to do 5s down the line because the speaker won't learn much if you give 5s down the line. So these words help. You know, instead of good, fair, and poor, you have developing, emerging, accomplished, excels, and exemplary. With that said, clarity, I did give him a 5 on clarity. Vocal clarity was good. Vocal variety, I gave him a 3 for accomplished. He may have changed his tone of voice here and there, but different tones of voice could have added more to the speech, especially when you talk about getting out of debt. You should be extra excited, and it might be hard for a speaker to convey that, but I know the audience will feel excitement when he explains the methods, simple methods of getting out of debt. For example, the debt snowball, starting with the smallest debt instead of the highest interest rate, because you can get it over with. Psychologically, you can get that over with quickly. You just start at the lowest amount of debt. eye contact. He had fairly well eye contact. Gestures. He did use some effective gestures, but he could have used more, to go with some of the points that he's made. Audience awareness, I gave a 4 for that because the audience was well aware of the subject of getting out of debt. Even though you may not have known the Financial Peace University method that well, but you do know about debt and having to get out of debt. Comfort level, I gave him a 4. The speaker was fairly comfortable with the audience, and the interest level was a 4. The audience was very engaged with the speaker's content. So that is my evaluation of Cody's speech. Madam General Evaluator.
I would like to introduce our next evaluator, which is myself. And I evaluated Maurice's speech, the benefits of Toastmasters for learning public speaking. I've never done an evaluation before, so pardon me. I think this speech was very helpful, and I think that we all know Maurice is a friendly face here. He's the first one you see when you walk in. When the meeting's over, if you're new, he's going to talk to you. So you can definitely tell that you are passionate about it and it's something you enjoy, which I think was relayed in the amount of knowledge that you showed when explaining the different benefits of Toastmasters. Was I supposed to have the grading? Is that different in this?
Yeah, that's different. That's the
Okay,
old. That's the old
okay.
system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so the first question is, how well was the speech directed to the interests and background of the audience? Since we are all members, we obviously have an interest in the club, and as Cody said earlier, if we had had guests here, it would have been great because I think they would have really learned a lot about the benefits of Toastmasters, and even I learned some that I hadn't thought about before joining, as far as with different areas of your life that you can use it for. So the information was great. The methods that he used to support his points, he did use hand gestures for emphasis when he was saying college versus the cost, college classes versus our costs. So that was good that he did the comparing hand gestures. He did do vocal changes at certain points, raising the voice to how much the class costs, hundreds of dollars, so that was good. I would suggest maybe changing the vocal emphasis a little more often. Maybe start off, maybe quieter, getting louder. And then also sometimes the hand gestures, maybe save those for the big emphasis points. I do it too. I was told I do it just over hand gestures. More ways to improve, also maybe more eye contact with the audience. You are one of the strong, that's one of your strengths that you do mostly, that you do most of the time, but I did notice this time you were so knowledgeable that you were, kind of recalling it from your head, but you did a great job. Maybe asking the audience a question or some more audience interaction. And how knowledgeable did the speaker appear? The speaker knows a lot about Toastmasters, and as I stated before, it shows in how it was presented, and there will be no question that Toastmasters is something that you enjoy doing. And it was very helpful that you knew the pricing amount, and you can give that information, which would help if someone was interested in Toastmasters, they wouldn't have to come and ask you a bunch of questions after because you gave them all the information they needed. And then did the speech appear to be well researched? And I said yes, with comparing the college campus public speaking prices versus our prices. And I think it was great that you said once you take the class, it's done, that's it. And I think it's great because I actually noticed one thing that Cody said before, if you add Toastmasters to your LinkedIn or Indeed, you do get different types of jobs, but you can't really do that with college classes. So I think that is a great point that I didn't think about before I joined. So that concludes my evaluation of Maurice's speech.
Thank you, Shai.
All right.
General evaluation, and evaluators.
Okay, what was the timings on the evaluations?
3 minutes, 43 seconds on your evaluation,
Okay.
30 speech, and then 3 minutes and 37 seconds
Oh,
on
And for the educational overview portion, I just thought if anyone has any general questions about the systems, because we've had some issues lately. So Donovan, I think you got it figured out now, and then John's gonna give it a shot, see if it works. So have you been able to get into pathways that's worked for
I
you?
haven't looked at it since I finished the icebreakers, but.
But it's, you're in there. Okay, great. So yeah, that was my educational overview. Didn't have any content for it. There are Heather's award's coming, but she's not here. I think Lawrence is getting another one. Donna, we're still doing I guess it's pathways enrollment though. So have you got yours, Cheyenne, your pathways enrollment? And
The yes.
okay. So there are no awards for tonight then. And if no one has anything else, I will now adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.
all right.
Thank you.